Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Health in Your Hands. My name is Dr. David Ajibade, and I'm the founder and director of the Brain and Body Foundation. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that has become almost an all-consuming passion of mine, which is, of course, sickle cell disease. And as you know, this is the week of the World Sickle Cell Day, so you're going to be seeing this program on quite a few times this week. And I really want you to pay attention, especially if you know someone or you have someone in your family who's suffering from the condition. We are going to go in depth into this, into the topic, and we have a very, very, very special guest on. In a few minutes, I'm going to introduce her. But I wanted to really look at, just paint a picture of sickle cell disease. Put it front and center. What we really like to do is make it a national priority, if we can presume to do that. Because really, in my opinion, it is a tragedy to me that in Nigeria that there are still so many people suffering needlessly, in my opinion, from sickle cell disease. Let me just paint a picture for you. Sickle cell disease is the commonest genetic disorder, especially in Africa. Now, some may say around the world, but certainly in Africa, it's the commonest genetic disorder. 80% of all sufferers are in what is known as sub-Saharan Africa. In Nigeria alone, they say about 20 to 25% of all sufferers are in Nigeria, making us number one, along with a few other conditions in the world. 2 to 4 million sufferers. Think about that. Unfortunately, many of these sufferers don't have access to standard medical care. They certainly don't have access to the equipment or the lab testing or to the experts. By the way, hematologists are the experts who deal with sickle cell disease, and there are, from what I've checked, last time I checked, fewer than 200 hematologists in Nigeria. Now think about that. Do the math. 2 to 4 million, 200 hematologists. And of course, they're not evenly distributed around the nation. So we just don't have the manpower and the firepower to deal with the patients who are suffering from sickle cell disease. That's why it's so important that we use every medium possible to reach out to the masses, to reach out to the people who have these conditions and educate them intelligently on the things that really matter when it comes to sickle cell disease, so that they, in turn, can take control. They can take the preventive steps. They can take the preventive measures. They can go to seek for help when they do need to seek for help, so that they can prolong their lives. I'm going to continue with the statistics. There are between 150 to 200,000 children being born every year with sickle cell disease. That is more than the total number of sickle cell patients in America as a whole. Now, half of these patients, of these children who have sickle cell disease, HPSS, will not reach their 10th birthday. Think about that. That's a tragedy. And it's not just they're just going to die before they get to 10. For many of them, their parents are in and out of the hospital pretty much every month with suffering for one condition or the other, maybe a pain crisis, or they've run out of blood and they have to have a top-up, or they have to have an exchange blood transfusion. And these symptoms begin to arise even from the 6th month of life. So it's not just, they live a healthy life and all of a sudden they die. No, it's a slow process of pain and suffering, a continuous cycle before they eventually leave this world. Something needs to be done. I'm going to continue with a few other statistics. 50% of all boys who reach adulthood with sickle cell disease will be infertile or impotent. They will not be able to conceive with their significant other. The problem with prevention, we might talk about that during our discussion, but the problem with prevention is that so many people who have done their genotype testing, like churches now insist on it, and I think some mosques too insist on it too, and I think that's really good, commendable, that more and more people are insisting, or leaders are insisting, especially in the religious side, to do the genetic testing or the genotype testing. The problem is that there are many false negatives. And what do I mean by that? Somebody who is actually AAS, he does his test and it comes out as AA. And then they feel they're okay, and they get married to somebody who is AS, and before you know it, something happens. They come out with a child who has sickle cell disease. I've heard that story over and over and over and over again, and every time the parents talk about it, you see that same bewildered expression. It's like, how did it happen? How did it happen? They took all the preventive measures. So it's not just enough to be aware about this thing. It's also important to know where to go to get the right testings done. So that's something that too needs to be pushed as much as possible. The commonest cause of death in sickle cell disease, they found out, especially in Nigeria, Africa, two main things: infection and what is known as the acute chest syndrome. Basically the lungs fail over a period of time, and then there's a crisis, and then that's maybe the final straw that breaks the camel's back. But I have to say that in this day and age, the government, private hospitals, organizations have really done a lot to try to reduce the impact of sickle cell disease in Nigeria, but it's still not enough. So we have to find a way to, one, reach them with the right information, like I've been saying, and two, we have to be able to find a way to take the therapies to them and take the therapies that they can use that are safe, that they don't require too much deliberate testing and monitoring to make sure that it is not going to lethal or toxic doses. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a very important drug that is being used for sickle cell disease called hydroxyurea, and it has helped a lot of people. It doesn't work for a lot of people as well, but it has helped a lot of people. The problem with that drug is that you need the prescription and the attention of a medical doctor who knows how to use hydroxyurea. So in other words, you can't just walk up to the pharmacy and say, I need hydroxyurea. And you wouldn't even know what dose to take. That needs to be ascertained in the lab. It needs to be ascertained by a doctor. So that obviously is a limitation. Again, there are other problems with hydroxyurea. We might talk about them more. We're also going to be talking about painkillers and the effect they are having, the negative effect. Of course, patients who are suffering from sickle cell disease have a lot of pain, they have a lot of suffering. And so naturally they tend to gravitate towards using painkillers. As you can imagine, the problems with that are obvious. Dependency, addiction, and things like that. We're going to talk about that as well. But more importantly, we're going to be talking about how you, if you are suffering from sickle cell disease, or if you have a child or ward that has sickle cell disease, how you can optimize, enjoy a fuller life, so to speak, with the tips and strategies that we will share, and how you can, take control of your health. So don't go away. We'll be back shortly to really get into the discussion. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. And I promised you that we're going to have a very special guest on today. And I will just go ahead and introduce her. Miss Adebola Benjamin. I just call her Auntie Bola. So happy to have you on. I'm going to say a few words about her. She is going to turn 61 this year, and she has had sickle cell disease all her life. And she is looking fantastic, by the way, if I may say so. That's bottom line. First of all, how have you done it all these years?
Well, I will give thanks to God first and foremost, because the pain of sickle cell disease helped me to discover that I needed to rely on God. And I learned to pray. I learned to study the Word of God and to hold on to it and take it as the truth, which is not common with too many people. So it's not been easy, but I'm here.
Okay, so you've got the religious aspect, faith, the believing aspect.
Yes.
That's extremely important.
Yeah, I believe that my faith had so much
to do with
the fact that I'm here today. because I know that it was not my doing. My parents were quite thorough, but I was from a polygamous family. And that, I really don't know how it affects people, because we had a good time in my family.
Yeah.
It wasn't like most other families.
So there was a lot of love and care.
There was a lot of love and care. And my father was a kind of disciplinarian. My father was a kind of person who believed in his children, and he held on to us, you know. I mean, I can remember as far back as the time that I was this young, my father would say it every day that none of his children would die. He would not bury any of his children.
Oh, wow.
So he was that kind of person. He took care of us, and every vaccination, every immunization that comes up in Nigeria, we were usually the first on the line. Anytime they bring any vaccine to Nigeria, is it meningitis, is it yellow fever, is it this one? We were first on the line.
Wow.
And like every Sunday, after your Sunday lovely lunch, you take a spoon of castor oil.
Really?
Oh.
Okay, let me jump in here. There was a lot of family support.
Yes.
There was a lot of faith in God, faith in the Word of God and all that.
Exactly.
But you and I know that is not enough in many cases, because there are also other cases children who have had the same privileges, let's put it,
right,
but who also had to take some practical steps. And as I say, faith without works is dead. They also had to take some practical steps to ensure that they stayed as healthy as possible. And you have learned a lot through these 60 years.
Yeah.
And also, I know you have a foundation where you are also helping children and adults who are living with sickle cell disease. And you've done a lot with the meager resources that you have, I have to say. I mean, when I say meager, I'm talking about compared to the number of people that you are supporting. What's your organization called again?
It's called the Sickle Cell Support Center.
Sickle Cell Support Center.
Yes.
It's based in Abuja here.
It's based in Abuja here.
Okay. Well, maybe we should talk about triggers first. Triggers of crisis. What a child with sickle cell disease, under normal circumstances, should be okay, right? But there are certain things that make them more prone, shall we say,
Exactly.
to having this pain crisis, and in the other case, the other kind, which is what is known as the hemolytic crisis, where their blood vessels, their blood cells just break up, and then their PCV drops, and all of a sudden we're looking for where to get a transfusion from. So there are certain things that trigger those things. So where would you like us to start from? Because I know there's a whole bunch.
Well, I believe that the family support, like you said, is so important. I was a teenager when my father took me to meet Professor Leshi at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital.
Okay.
He was one of the specialists on sickle cell disease in those early days. And he wrote a book. And he gave me the book to read, but he also told my father and myself that sickle cell does not have to kill you. Sit down, learn what it means, find out what sickle cell is about, get every necessary information, and then do the right things. And I believe it stirred up the quest for knowledge. At first, I was very, very upset. I hated myself. I hated the family. I actually attempted suicide 3 times.
Really?
Oh, yes, in my teenage years. But I thank God
because you blamed your parents for getting married and having you, or what?
No, for the fact that out of 17 children, why should I be the only one with sickle cell disease? So I was angry.
17 children.
I was always angry. you know. But I thank God, you know, like you said, faith has a lot to do with those kind of things. The anger, with time, subsided, and the older I got, the more I became aware of the fact that God didn't keep me alive for myself. And that's the reason why I started reaching out to people. I started having other children with sickle cell disease come to live with me.
Wow.
When I had my own apartment.
We're going to take a short break now, and we're going to get back into the triggers of crisis. So
yes.
Don't go away. Welcome back. We are talking about sickle cell disease, and we have a very special guest, Miss Adebola Benjamin. Thank you so much, Ma, for being on the show. And you have a lot of experience to pass across to us about how to handle, how to thrive, how to survive with sickle cell disease at any age, right? And through your support groups, you've been teaching and encouraging young and old people who have sickle cell disease what to do. I think one of the things that I saw you emphasize when I attended was for patients or children, adults to take plenty of water. Why?
Yes, because for an individual with sickle cell disease, there's a lot of, there's frequent letting of water from the body. The body gets out so much, water, and there's always a need to be hydrated. So
hydration kind of improves the blood volume and allows the blood to flow better, right?
The body is made up of up to 85% of water. And if you have to pee like 8 times in a day, you'll discover that you're completely hydrated.
Dehydrated.
And so, because of the dehydration, and to keep up that level of water, for the individual with sickle cell disease needs to drink more water. If the normal person drinks like 4 bottles of water in a day, the individual with sickle cell needs to drink like 8 bottles.
Twice?
Yes, twice.
Twice the amount. Wow. Because I know, of course, that they tend to have a lot more toxicity, a lot more breakdown, because of the breakdown of the cells breakdown. And so there's a tendency for the blood volume, for the blood not to flow like it should as well. We're trying to make it less technical, as in plain English as possible. But did you see any difference in yourself or in others when you started taking more water? Any specific examples you can point to?
Exactly. For someone like me, as soon as I wake up in the morning, I drink at least 1 or 2 bottles of water.
Yeah, the 75. The which size? The small. The
75 cl.
CL bottles. Okay, all right.
It improves my circulation, and it gets my system moving.
Okay.
And I believe that it flushes out the toxins and whatever it is that my body does not need. And I also believe that water helps your organs, because they're so stressed. Because there's one important thing that a lot of people with sickle cell disease do not understand, and it's the blood cycle. It's a natural human thing. A normal human being has a 90-day blood cycle.
That's the lifespan of the red blood cells.
The lifespan of the red blood cells.
90 to 120 days, yes.
Exactly. But for the individual with sickle cell disease, the lifespan of the red blood cell is 25 days to 30 days.
Right.
And so, by the time you're getting to the end of that 30 days, your body is weak, it's tired, your blood level is low, and it's like you have malaria. And a lot of them will go to the hospital, Oh, it's like I'm going to have malaria. It's like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of staying at home, eating a lot of fresh foods, drinking a lot of water,
Mm-hmm.
and then taking a rest to rebuild those red blood cells that are dying out.
Mm.
Because the old cells will die out and new cells will come up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once you understand that cycle, anytime you start feeling like that, all you need to do, drink more water, eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. Because I, as a person, have discovered that nutrition plays a very important role in my life. I mean.
Oh, fantastic.
And
we do want to talk about nutrition things, and before we start this show, this segment, we're talking about some of the foods that you have found out that you eat, you feel better, you feel stronger, and there are other foods that you take that make you feel terrible and make it maybe trigger a crisis. So we do want to talk about that, but I don't want us to get away from the fluid thing, because what would you say would be the single most important point
for an individual with sickle cell disease? It's water.
It is water, exactly.
Water, every day water, every minute water. It's actually like the first aid, is the middle aid, and it's the last aid.
And there you have it, folks. You need to remember that water all the time.
Exactly.
Have you seen any changes that I can share with you, with all the people you've supported? Are there any kids that you've seen who were not taking water like they should, or adults that were
Exactly.
and then did you see a change?
Yes.
Any specific examples you can share briefly with us? Anything you can think of?
The Sickle Cell Support Center actually started because of this little boy who is here. His name is called Favor.
Let me see that.
I met him in the church.
Okay.
On a Sunday morning. A teacher in the Sunday school, was carrying this almost lifeless child with his eyes deeply yellow. And he was groaning and in pains. I took one look at him and said, where is the mother of this child? And we couldn't find the mother, because the mother just dumped him there and ran away.
Wow.
And so we had a clinic in the church. And so the child was taken to the clinic. I followed them. Of course, everybody even thought I was the mother. I said, please, just put this boy on a drip immediately. Let's rehydrate him. Let his system come alive and this, And they gave him a painkiller and an antibiotic and whatever. And after about 3 hours, said, we have to discharge this child. I said, you can't discharge this child. Well, the church had to close. And this child was badly infected, was sick to the bones. And so he ended up being in the hospital for 9 weeks.
Wow.
9 weeks.
So did you have to take, we might have to run up for this segment, but did you have to take him in? And
yes,
that's why you said
I had to
help out.
I had to take him to the hospital. I had to look for some doctors to help us. And I mean, it's a long story.
Okay, all right. But that's how you started this whole support thing.
That was how this support thing started. And I now discovered that a lot of parents don't understand that even just drinking a lot of water will help to move the crisis.
Okay.
Will
reduce the impact and reduce the
impact of the crisis and would help the system.
All right, folks, our time is up. Auntie D, as I like to call you, thank you so much. You cannot go away now, so we're going to come back and continue this.
You want me to talk about 60 years experience in 20 minutes?
Not enough, I understand that. I hear you, but we can try.
Okay.
People need to hear and know what you're talking about. So we really appreciate your time, and we shall continue. Let's put it that way. Again, folks, thanks for joining us. I'm Dr. David Ajibade with the Brain and Body Foundation. See you next week.